Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Jennie Dildine, the LDS Mission Coach, and you are listening to the LDS Mission Podcast, episode number 173. Am I doing a good job? I'm Jennie, the LDS Mission Coach, and whether you are preparing to serve a mission, currently serving, a returned missionary, or a missionary mama like me, I created this podcast just for you. Are you searching for epic confidence, ready to love yourself and to learn the how of doing hard things? Then let's go. I will help you step powerfully into your potential and never question your purpose again. It's time to embrace yourself, embrace your mission, embrace your life, and embrace what's next. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. I'm really happy to be hanging out with you today. You know, I have an ongoing list of ideas that I have for a podcast. I have probably, if I'm looking even right now, I probably have like 30 sticky notes under my computer area on my desk. And I have sticky notes like to the left of me and sticky notes to the right of me. Typically, I just basically, if something comes up on a session with a client, I am like, oh, that would make such a good podcast episode. And then I make a note of it and it just sticks on a sticky note. Sometimes I'll get ideas like as I'm just out and about or having conversations with people, and then I put those things in my phone. What I usually find is that sometimes ideas for me, maybe you've noticed that maybe I could have recorded like the early returned missionaries podcast a lot earlier. Like it's pretty far when I look at the idea that this is episode number 173. I've recorded a lot of episodes. But what I find is that there's some topics that I really have to sort of think about and mull over and figure out how I want to talk about it and figure out how it would be the most useful for you to hear the topic or different like analogies and things like that. And sometimes I actually recently received an email from a missionary, and I won't get into all the specifics of the email, but it's something I want to talk about on the podcast, but like my mind just has to sort of mull it over and then turn it over and look at it again and then mull it over and turn it over again. And so usually about the time like, oh yeah, okay, that's what I want to talk about it. And that is the way that I want to talk about it is when I record the podcast. Like for instance, the Shame podcast. I've been thinking about that podcast that came out a couple weeks ago for a really long time. And finally I was like, okay, I'm ready to talk about this. This particular podcast episode actually just kind of dropped into my head yesterday, actually. And so sometimes things will just sort of come to me really quickly and I'll be like, oh yeah, I need to talk about that. I know what I want to say and I know how to share it. And so I love stuff like that too, because I always leave a little bit of room for what maybe you might need to hear for an email that comes through and I'm just like, oh, I need to talk about that. I think you should all know, especially if you're new here, I do this for you. I think that's really important for you to know. I sometimes, have conversations with my husband, and sometimes I'll even ask myself this question, which is the title of this podcast, is like, am I doing a good job? And sometimes I have to look at myself and say, no, I'm not doing a good job at this. Like I was the stay-at-home mom for 22 years or so, and 22 years. And then I started a business and I started feeling this pull, this little tap on my shoulder to do some work with missionaries. And do I do it awesome all the time? Probably not. But I want to talk about this phrase, am I doing a good job? Because I sort of had this little bit of an epiphany yesterday. And I want to be able to talk about that. So all of that to say, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm here for it. I'm here for you. I've been thinking a lot lately about how to not just give people tools and strategies, but how to really create a community of people who care about missionaries and who want change for missionaries so that they don't have to suffer out there, who really care about the mindset and emotional well-being of our young adults. And that is what I'm trying to do here, is so that everybody feels like they have a place where they can talk about the experiences that they've had, where they can learn and grow from the experiences that they have, and where there's a place where some space can be held for you to just be with the experience of your mission, whatever that looks like. And so I hope that this does a little bit of that for you. I recently, when I was at the Restore conference, the Faith Matters Restore conference, I created a new freebie, which is just basically something free that you can get, a new resource. And I want to start including that in the show notes. At some point, I'm going to create a new outro so that I mention it, but just you're going to get a little bit of a head start. It's a podcast roadmap. So one of the things I get most often from parents, or I actually had an RM that messaged me on Instagram yesterday, and it's like, I need help with blank. And I have so many episodes now that sometimes people are just like, could you kind of point me in the right direction for a podcast episode? And so I've created a resource for you where you can just download this PDF. It includes different categories for whichever stage of the mission you're in. I basically categorized a bunch of the episodes so that you could just go on there and be like, oh, I'm an early return missionary. Oh, I'm struggling with my companion. Oh, I'm really feeling homesick. And these would be the episodes that you would listen to. And maybe this will be really useful for parents too, because I get a lot of messages from parents. Also, how can I help my missionary or my preparing missionary or my return missionary? And it's all just there for you. It's a really good place to get started. If you're diving into the podcast, it's also a really great place if you know that someone else is struggling, maybe one of your friends' kids is struggling, or one of your companions is struggling, just to have a really good jumping off point to give you the basics of kind of the help and the resources that are available. I also have on there my top most listened to podcast episodes. I recently crossed 100,000 downloads, which I'm super excited about. That's always kind of a milestone. And so I feel really happy and excited about that. So thank you for listening. I'm going to include it in the show notes, a link to the podcast roadmap, so you can go grab that. And anyway, I think it could be a really good resource for you and for people that you love and care about who might be going through something involved with the mission experience. So the other thing that I will just ask really quick is, if you haven't already, will you just take a quick moment? It would mean so much to me if you would just do a quick review and a following of the podcast. You can rate it, and it just helps get the word out to more people. That's always been my goal, is help as many missionaries as possible, plus their families. So that would be super helpful. So thank you so much. Okay, so back to, am I doing a good job? This is one of those little mindset shifts that I kind of shared earlier that kind of dropped into my head and has already kind of made a big difference for me. So even though we don't always want to rely on other people outside of us for validation, I think it's part of our normal human existence to sort of want to do that and to think that we need other people to validate us. Ideally, we would always think loving, kind thoughts about ourselves, understand, believe the thought, I'm doing a good job. And then we would feel confident, and then we would take action from there. But that's not always possible, right? Because we're human. And so we have this lower brain, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a second. So all of that to say that I have this folder on my computer because, I have bad days just like you. And my husband finally, maybe a year ago, said something like, you know what you should do is you should put a folder on your computer and take screenshots of all the messages, of all the emails that people send you so that you can go back and look and read those. I got one just today that was from my weekly email last night that said something like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for your weekly messages. Sometimes I snooze them, my favorite ones, because then they pop back up in a month or so and I get to read them again, and they're so good. And so what I did is I screenshotted that and I put it in my folder, and guess what the name of my folder is? The name of my folder is You're Doing a Good Job. But today, as I was thinking about this folder, and this is where my mindset shift came, I changed the name of that folder. And I'm going to explain why. Because I won't be able to say 100% of the time that I'm doing a good job. I just won't. Like, even if other people were looking at me and saying, Jennie is doing such a good job with the missionary, she's helping so many people, even if other people see that and that is what feels true, sometimes I still can't see it. And this is because we have a human brain. There are even times I tell myself, I really want to believe 100% of the time that I'm doing a good job. I actually am working with an RM client, and she's just like, I just want to believe I'm doing a good job and that I'm confident. And I'm like, that's just not possible because you have a human brain. You're not ever going to believe that you're doing a good job 100% of the time. Remember, your brain's like a problem-solving machine, okay? It's literally scanning your environment for problems. That is its job. It's looking for things that are wrong. Things that are wrong with the people you interact with, things that are wrong with your environment, things that are wrong with the world, and if it can't find anything wrong with what's outside of you, it will turn on you. And it'll look for things that are wrong with you, with your body, with your personality, with your feelings, with how productive you are. It will turn on you and look for things that are wrong. It's just what your brain does on default. It's not a problem. It doesn't have to be bad, but that is its job. And so even if the work I'm doing is really, really good, or the work that you're doing is really, really good, maybe you're a missionary, maybe you volunteer at a homeless shelter, maybe you're a really good teacher in your ward or something like that. Maybe you just are really kind to your family. Whatever work that you are doing, or maybe your spouse, whatever work that you are doing, even if it's really, really good, like missionary work, we will, on occasion, have the tendency to think, I could do that better, or I'm not doing a good job. So this is the takeaway I want you to have from this episode is a lot of times when I start working with clients, I just started with 3 new clients last week, and I teach them session 1 about the difference between facts and thoughts. And then, of course, their next question is, well, how do I change what I think? I want to think, quote unquote, positive. But it's not always going to work for your brain to just switch from what it believes now to believing something different, because that is its job. Its job is to scan for problems. And so it's going to be challenging to take your brain from, I'm not doing a good job, to, I'm doing an amazing job. Whether that's missionary work, whether that's your school work, whether that's the kind of friend that you are, whether that's the kind of person that you are. The goal of a mindset shift, you guys, is not to bounce from something that is what we would call, quote unquote, negative. And I don't even like that word, but a thought not as useful, to a thought that's super useful and quote unquote positive. It's not the goal to change it to something that is the exact opposite of the thought that you're thinking. If you have the thought, I don't really like my body right now, then the goal of a mindset shift is not to take you from, I don't really like my body, to, I love my body. Because when we try to do that, the brain doesn't come along. It doesn't come along for the ride. So the goal, you guys, is not positive thinking. The goal is to find a thought that feels more believable and true. Those are the kind of thoughts that stick around. These are the kind of thoughts that can work 100% of the time, even when you don't have any validation or proof. So I want to be able to share with you what I changed the name of this folder to. Again, because I might have a day where I don't feel like I'm doing a good job, even if everyone looked at me and said, Jennie, you're doing a great job. Or even me being a mom, right? I don't always feel like I'm doing a good job. And you most likely won't either because of your human brain. Totally fine. Not a problem. But instead of switching it from this thought to a way positive thought, rainbows and butterflies, what we're going to do instead is we're going to change the thought to a more believable thought. And so this is what I changed just this morning, the name of this folder to, where I put everyone's feedback, their validation, their kind words, their gratitude for the work that I'm doing, is I changed the name of the folder to What You Are Doing Matters. This feels true to me. It feels true that the work I'm doing to record this podcast every week, to send an email every week, to meet with clients one-on-one, to have a team of coaches, to have a team of RM mentors, to show up and share what I'm doing with the world matters. And this thought is so sticky, meaning it's going to stick around regardless of whether I have that sort of outside validation coming in or not. Even when I'm having a bad day, even when I'm struggling to come up with an episode or come up with a way to teach something or a way to say something, I still can go back to this thought, what I'm doing matters. It doesn't even matter if I'm doing a good job, because what I'm doing matters. And I want you to know that what you are doing matters too. What you are feeling matters. And I don't mean this in the sort of way that's like, make sure you're doing the right things, make sure you're feeling the right way, quote unquote. What I mean is even that matters. So the work that you're doing, the things that you're feeling, the people that you're talking to, the interactions that you have with other people, that all of the emotions you're feeling, all of the thoughts that you're having, all of the things that you are doing matter because they're meant to shape and transform you. Sometimes I hear the phrase, Jesus loves effort. And you know what? Probably. I mean, maybe. And what I would love to change this to, this is sort of like this idea, am I doing a good job? But what I would love to change this thought to, and I'd love for many of you to start thinking, is instead of Jesus loves effort, just Jesus loves me. Period. Mic drop. End of sentence. Because sometimes we won't do a good job. Sometimes we won't put in the effort that we even want to put in. Sometimes we're going to be sick. Sometimes we're going to be sad. Sometimes we're going to be lonely. Sometimes we're going to be overwhelmed. And sometimes we're not going to be able to give any effort at all. And there are humans on the planet who have disabilities or whatever, and their effort is so small. Are we just saying that the Lord doesn't love them? The Lord loves you, period. So what you're doing matters, how you're feeling matters, and you matter. Not because you're doing a good job. but because you exist, because you're showing up in this human experience that's meant to shape us and transform us and cause growth. And sometimes that growth is heart-wrenching and soul-searching and like feels like you're being gutted, honestly, from time to time. But the process matters. Okay? Last week I shared with an RM the analogy of a chrysalis. I'm like, you're just in the chrysalis right now, because we started working together and it was just still feeling hard and icky and rough. And she's like, I just want to have more confidence. And I'm like, yeah, but you're in the chrysalis. If we're going to open the chrysalis right now, yeah, it's going to look yucky and kind of unfinished and gooey and brown. I'm like, just keep going. It's the process that matters. It's the process that causes change. It's the process that causes transformation, not the outcome. Okay? So when you guys are doing this, when you're doing your little thought work, when you're trying to shift the way you're thinking about something, don't go from what we would say, I'm not doing a good job, to I'm doing an amazing job. Because we're all going to think that from time to time. And so what feels true even on the days that you don't think you're doing a good job? And it's a thought like this. Whether I'm doing a good job or not, what I'm doing matters. I matter. Okay? I hope this helps you. I hope you have an amazing week. I think about you guys every single day. So take care, and we'll see you next time. Serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can present a unique set of challenges. And many of those challenges you might not even see coming. So you're going to want a unique set of solutions. It's easier than you think to overcome worry and anxiety, serve the successful mission you've always dreamed of, and navigate your post-mission experience with confidence. That is why I created some amazing free goodies that I'm sharing in my show notes. Maybe you'll want to grab the free training for preparing missionaries, my video course for RMs, or maybe you and I should hop on a free strategy call. If you're ready to take your preparedness to serve or your preparedness to come home to the next level, then go grab one of those freebies. And in the meantime, no matter which part of the mission experience you are involved in, just know that Jennie, the LDS mission coach, is thinking about you every single day.